Welcome everybody to the Scribo English Writing Competition for 2022. This video is for teachers wanting to get their classes and schools involved in the competition. So it's going to take you through quickly how to register as a teacher, register your interest in the competition. That will allow us to set your school up and then pass you through some emails that you can then share with your students. So we'll quickly show you the student experience, how they get an email from you, and how they register and how they start moving and working, and then how you as a teacher can monitor and use Scribo to save time, give feedback as well, and enjoy the whole process. Okay, all the information about the competition is on a web page. So if you go to about.literato.com/UAE, you will come onto the competition web page where pretty much everything that we're going through is described and able to be accessed in more detail. So quickly down the page, the opportunity to enroll your school. So I'll come back to that in a second. Some information about the competition itself, how we run it, the types of levels of writing that we expect, and then more detail about the competition and the actual writing prompts, and how we go about encouraging students to do their best work. So all of these elements here, and there's down the bottom I should say, there's information for students and information for teachers as well. So this is where you get the full sort of exposure to what we're doing here. And of course you can click on this to register your school. So the process is really quickly. You register your school, email address, a bit of information about your school. Choose your school from the list. We've got most of the schools, or we think we've got all of the schools from the United Emirates regions. So if not, just enter your school name down here. Once you've confirmed that you want to be in it and you've selected the types of student categories that we're working with, so we're working with primary, secondary, lower secondary and upper secondary. If you confirm what categories of students you have, we will send you back everything you need to communicate this back to your students, which will be the next part of this video. You'll see that you'll get an email from us that you simply forward to your students. It gives them a code, it gives them a link, and it gets them registered. And once they're registered, they're self-powered into the competition and off they go writing. We certainly don't want to make any more work for teachers. You've got enough to do. But we do want to show you a great experience that students will have and how the AI can help you monitor and be part of this whole student success as well. So it's a real live sort of presentation of Scribo without you having to do any of the setup work. We'll do all that with you and your students. We'll get the students going, and then we'll see the sorts of data and inputs that you can be part of as that journey progresses across the months for the writing competition. So we'll go to the student piece now, and then I'll take you through how you can monitor and watch and be part of the student success story as they're writing. Okay, so for each category of student, now that means if you're in primary, lower secondary or upper secondary, we send you an email for each category of student. Now all that needs you to do is to forward that email to the students who would like to be part of the competition, or anyone in your school. It doesn't matter. When they take up that opportunity, they will click on the link and they will click on the code. Now that will put them into a self-registration process, which just simply asks their name and email address, and they're into the system. So it's very quick for teachers to do the distribution of the emails, and it keeps the emails internal with no security issues, and that's how students get registered into the system. Okay, so when students have completed the registration, we know what group they are in, what category of user they are in. So that's primary, lower secondary or upper secondary, and we give them access to our 3 essays: narratives, persuasives. I think it's 2 narratives, or 2 persuasives, 1 narrative. One's called The Gate, one's called Which is Better, and one's called Everyone Should Learn to Cook. So the idea of these 3, as I've discussed in earlier videos, is to keep the vocabulary open. So what's behind a gate? Anyone could imagine anything. Which is better is the comparison, and Everyone Should Learn to Cook is what it's just all about language that they probably have good command of. So we're not asking for specialized vocabulary, we're just looking for great writing. So students have the ability to really find out which one they'd like to explore first, open this this writing activity and have access to scaffolded materials on the right hand side. So the idea here is they can start typing in here, they can cut and paste from other systems into here. The real thing that we want to do for them is give them instant feedback. Now we have a score that rolls around here. It's based on a substantial rubric that's had lots of usage. It's a 10-level rubric that goes through all sorts of elements, breaking down elements into various components like sentence structures, like cohesion, vocabulary, spelling, grammar, individual sort of rubric elements that we can be quite fine-tuned on in how we measure. And students can, I think the main point is see where the marks are going. So there's no involvement from teachers in sort of drafting and handing back and all those processes you do now. We really want the students to self-power their way through, write something and see where they land. Now where they land is where they can start exploring to move forwards. And they do so across all sorts of feedback that we give them. So I won't go into all of the different feedback elements because that's part of what I'll show you in your teacher side, because everything students experience, teachers get to see as well. So there's no hidden corners in Scribo. It's a very open, transparent environment where if you want to look at someone's work, you can do it just as easily as I, as a student, are using it now. So they can basically paint 3 of their best texts into these containers called activities, and when they're ready they hand them in. Now they can only hand in 1, okay? So we take the best essay and you can help them make the choice. And I'm going to now take you over to the teacher side to show you how that happens. Okay, welcome to teacher version of Scribo. So what's happening here is that we will give you, the minute you register with us or you register your interest, you get an account as a teacher inside your school. So each school is very much segmented. You don't see across other schools, you only see through your school. And that email address will get you into what's happening in your competition. So it's all very transparent. We have primary, lower secondary and upper secondary. If you nominated all 3 groups, you'll have all 3. If just 1, you'll have just 1. So this is the class. These are the activities. And we can start to see, as students start working, we can see how many students are involved, how many are in progress, and how many have handed in. So you can see across the 3 topics and simply just click to go into your class. Now this may have anywhere between 1 and 30 or 40 students, it doesn't matter. You can see across all of them. And to traverse students, you simply click. I wished I had more in this screen, but if you can imagine a list of 30, you can click between any student you like. You'll see their name there and you'll see their work and the feedback we're giving them. So just taking you through what students will experience. These elements of feedback come up as we think students need to pay some attention to. So if we're talking about vocabulary, we have a target here. This is a lower secondary student who's writing pretty much with words that are beyond the target range of words for a year 8 student. So, but there are some simple nouns that they're using that they could improve and try and select better words for. So students can click on these words and find alternate synonym words. Now this is Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, so it's very high quality advice that we're giving here. They can look through their word choices, their verb choices, and see what level of writing they're doing. Now what we're trying to help students here is not at all criticize the words that they've chosen, but hope to push them up in vocabulary usage into using higher level synonyms or different concepts of words, different combinations of words they're quite used to. So it's something that teachers always try and do, is expand the vocabulary. We're just giving them some fun and some elements that they can click around and say, oh, there's another unit on the right, that works for me, so they can select that word and move on. Now I can't do the changes or edits as a teacher, okay, that's why it didn't work just then. I can look and I can see, but I don't go live editing unless I make a volitional click on the edit button. Okay, so most times teachers are in read mode until you click the edit button, then you can help them fix their essay if you want to. So the feedback goes across many different phases, and of course there's the famous or the steadfast grammar and spelling, where we look into all sorts of issues that they're having. You can see what sort of suggestions we're giving. We actually try and get words out of essays. We just don't keep trying to fix words. We actually say you don't need words. So we're trying to shorten sentences, we're trying to get clarity in writing, we're trying to find better words for things, and obviously fix grammar, spelling and punctuation as well. They have access to work through all of these things. We've got a special thing called clarity where, as I was saying, we try and take adverbs out. We try to get around clumsy collocations and all sorts of things that students can get into a habit of doing. So we're trying to bring it to their attention, and that's what we do in Scribo across all of these elements of feedback. Some students will have more feedback than others, but that's okay. They can traverse through it. Now, my favorite one, of course, is sentences, because words go into sentences. Sentences form paragraphs. If you're blowing up sentences, your paragraphs are going to take a hit as well. So simple sentences. How many times have you said, let's stop writing simple sentences, try and vary the sort of rhythm of the paragraph, have more complex and compound sentences combining to make it more an interesting read. Students fall into these habits. You'll find yourself red penning this all the time. These are things that Scribo can bring to their attention, and it's sometimes better when they find it out themselves than when adults are forcing advice down into their writing. So some of the favorites that I like is simple sentences. So the AI will look and say, these sentences are very close in your context, which is important. Why don't we try and join them up? No, we won't tell you how to join them up, but we will show you how close they are, and what you could do, is obviously use a connective or a transition to move those together. This is where you can make a difference as well. If you wanted to help them do that, you could make a teacher comment that suggested how they could go about doing that. Now, feedback in Scribo is great because you can use this speech to text where we can talk and it will, I'll show you, we can talk to the system and it will record our voice and all of the notes that I'm making right now. It'll put it into the text. That will go immediately to the student live. Okay, so feedback is a two-way channel. Most teachers, I've got to say, prefer now to use the audio message where they can talk as much as they want and sort of rewrite the sentence or reread the sentence with a connective in it and give some great advice and hit stop. That will send an audio file across to the student. Now, this sort of feedback is where teachers do their best work, because it's not grammar correcting, it's not highlighting little words and little sentences. It's really looking at the bigger picture and trying to give them advice in how to position their writing, as opposed to fix all of the little elements that can go wrong in writing. And let's face it, a lot of things can go wrong in writing at a micro level. It frustrates students, but sometimes a bigger picture piece of advice can get them back on track. So that's where we see the teachers being really the best asset for the students, is not red penning this stuff all the time, but certainly taking a higher view across how they could improve. So we try to do the heavy lifting for all of the students with the students. You can see what we're doing, and I think delightfully you can see what the students are doing as well. Because if you're wondering how their scoring history is going, so every student, when they put their first text into Scribo, starts at a point, and typically they climb upwards. Now this example is a bit different, where I was playing it. I achieved quite a good score to start with. I started playing with some things that didn't work for me, but I bounced back. So across the transitions of versions, teachers can see movement, which is I think you really want to see as a teacher. You want to see up or down, because that's where you can step in. Obviously up you can encourage, down you can rescue, and keep things on the track. So you can see changes in history, you can see how much help Scribo is giving the student. So a lot of teachers say to us, wow, Scribo helped the students so much, improve from like where they were at 60 up to like 75, 80. We can actually explain how that happened. These are the changes that we help them make. So it's a great way to very much just sit there, have a cup of quiet tea and not get involved in it, but certainly be part of it and look for opportunities for yourself to get involved. So again, teachers and students have exactly the same interface. It's just that teachers can jump between students really effectively. They can make feedback really effectively, and delightfully they can print reports really effectively. So if you can imagine using this in your classroom where you're getting ready for the sort of registration sort of reviews or compliance reviews, these reports will go a long way to helping that process. They document the entire essay, all of the feedback that's given. Have a look around the reporting option. It's fun and it's made for teachers. So the other thing that we can do as a teacher is go into what's called a groove. Now, every student has got a really cool thing called a groove report, and what it does for them is it tracks their progression through all of the versions that they're working on, and it shows them where they're improving and where they need to improve. Now, obviously you can see this as well. We don't make secrets, we don't have corners where people have more information than others. Everything's very open here, but you can very quickly inquire as to how they're going across all of the work that they're doing and make some contributions to that. So this little guy here is going to be driving the students. When they come in at 60 and they see that they've got things to fix, they'll get about fixing it. These are called free marks, free grammar space. You can improve by changing your sentence types. We'll tell you how to do that, show you how to do that. You can improve anything in here with the help that we give, and if you don't understand how to do it, there's help on the side there for the students as well. Okay, so we've got a lot of support materials. Hopefully they won't be coming to you and asking. They'll be generating this improvement themselves, which is the ultimate sort of way to move forwards in writing, is the teachers to lift themselves out of that time sort of void of continual correction into more of a mentoring role, because this system takes over the detail correction and feedback side. So there's a lot of fun in here. I really encourage you to click around. There's a lot more fun to be had in the library. Students are going to explore this part of Scribo, where it's probably for the more higher secondaries, where we're starting to talk about passive verbs and we're passive sentences, where we're trying to get more active in the way that we communicate. There's a lot of things in the library that are a lot of fun for students to look at. You may be involved in describing how they could be of benefit, but that's again the value of you as a teacher. So I would encourage you to look around, go into the dashboard, have a look at the number of writing checks that are going on, when students are writing, what type of spelling errors, passive voice, cohesive type errors we're having. Are we improving our advanced cohesion over time, or are we not? These metrics give you heads up into what's happening with the detail in the writing. It's something that we always miss because we move at such a speed just to get the work done. So there's a lot in here. You don't have to use all of it. You don't have to use any of it, really. I think the most fun you're going to have is seeing students moving along. You'll drop into what's happening in a group or a class, a group of students. You'll have a look at how the scores are going. You'll contribute something to it, I'm sure, and the students will be improving, and we can show that improvement. So that's really all we're trying to do here, is really get students confident writing capabilities, confident writing support, and not necessarily make that a bigger problem or more work for you. So I do hope you enjoy this competition. I look forward to any feedback that you might have. Happy to talk to anyone, and I wish you the best of luck.